Welcome to my review of the Innova Star Destroyer. This is the Ricky Wysocki two-time World Champion edition, so it's a somewhat new run. No sponsor to thank on this particular video. I bought this with my own money to test it, and also because I wanted to support Rick, because as any of my long-term fans know here on the channel, I'm a huge fan of Ricky Wysocki. He's hands down my favorite player, and definitely wanted to check out one of these Rick Destroyers. I have another one that my friend Anthony gave me that is tucked away in my collection, and this one is ready to be thrown. So I had a good time testing it. Let's take a look at it first of all. I dig the stamp. I think it's cool. I like the robot dinosaur Raptor. I dig it. It's good artwork. It looks nice. Star Destroyer. There are your flight numbers. Here's Ricky's signature. Two-time world champion. But overall, I dig the stamp. This one's got kind of like a sunset, I think they call it, where it's orange and pink and red and yellow, and good looking disc for sure. Taking a look at the bottom, you can see it's 175 grams. It also says Destroyer right there, which is nice. Definitely better than having it written on with pen or whatever. As you can see, this weight is already starting to kind of go away, so if it didn't have the stamp, it'd be harder to tell what it is. So I like having that. I think that should be standard, and kind of is at this point going forward, where in some way it's marked on the actual disc itself. This one doesn't have much of a dome to it. A little bit. It's not board flat, as you can see here. It's got a touch of dome to it. It'll pop a little bit if you try, but it's not really a super domey one either. This particular star blend feels tremendous. I absolutely love it. It's got a nice amount of give, flexibility in the hand that feels amazing. I really like the feel of this disc. It feels fantastic, and I love the star plastic. I forget sometimes how much I like star plastic until I get out and actually throw it, because I don't really use Innova, or haven't carried it in my bag for quite a while. Stuff is just tremendous. I actually just traded for a stack of Sidewinders for my buddy who's kind of just starting to get into the sport, and they're all star plastic. I'm like, man, this stuff is nice. Let's put it up next to a couple options. The most obvious one being the Paul McBeth Kong. Same exact flight numbers. Essentially, the Kong, as far as I'm concerned, was a Destroyer clone, more or less. Has the same flight numbers. Obviously, Paul's very well known for throwing Destroyers over the years. I said this in my review. This one is marked 173 grams. Pretty similar in flight. Let me try to get these as flat as possible so you can see the side-by-side here. There are some differences. It's not an exact replica, in my opinion, but it's definitely not super different. Definitely a similar vibe overall, I think, in feel and in flight. These two particular discs were thrown back to back. We're ending up in very similar locations, even with slightly different release angles. This Kong, being flat, has a little bit more glide and a little bit more natural turn, so I was getting a hair more distance, like 10 feet max more distance than the Destroyer on average, but they were ending up within the same, probably, again, maybe a 10-foot diameter circle from one another. Also, just since I have it close by, another, oh, if it'll focus, I have another 12-speed disc here, which is the Trespass. Let's put that right there. You can see the differences. Trespass actually does seem to have a more narrow rim than a lot of other 12-speed discs, now that I've been kind of putting it side by side with the Kong and the Destroyer in their respective reviews. Love the feel. Feels great. Feels like a Destroyer. The star plastic is tremendous, and I had a great time testing it. Let's talk about the flight of this thing. It's a Destroyer. You guys know what Destroyers do. The problem with Destroyers is that they're incredibly inconsistent. Depending on which one you end up with, you could have the most ridiculous meat hook overstable driver you've ever seen, like some of the Destroyers I've tested. I have an old Star Destroyer that's got like a Vulcan top. It's a bottom stamp. And the thing is the most unbelievable meat hook driver I've ever tested. And you can also find like a Pro Destroyer or something like that. That's pretty flippy. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for in order to find the right disc. There's also a really interesting video that's been going around that probably a lot of you have seen, called How to Find the Right Destroyer. I would definitely look into that. It's a really fascinating video if you're into this sort of thing. Geeking out on plastic, the dude takes it really deep, so definitely look for that if you're interested. I had a fun time seeing how far this guy took his testing and his investigation of this. But let's talk about the Destroyer just This particular one, it's stable enough that I can throw it as hard as I want to without it flipping accidentally, but it also will hold straight most of the flight and have a strong fade once it starts to slow down. I particularly liked it for hyzer shots for my arm speed, because it's going to naturally go left for me to some degree depending on the angle. But this particular run is a nice throwable run for the average player. It doesn't have to, you don't have to have a huge arm to get a good flight out of the Ricky Destroyer. It's got a nice little bit of dome to it, good glide, good carry, consistent flight, like you know what it's going to do. It's not squirrely by any means. If you were more of a power thrower, I'm sure you'd get more stand up and ride out of it, but for me it would kind of just hold the angle up to speed and then finish out. If I put it on Anheuser, it could work right and flex, which was very nice, but I mostly liked it for just those smooth hyzer shots or times where you just want to throw a disc flat and level and let the natural fade finish it in and down towards the basket. Again, compared to the Kong, this one was somewhat in between the flippiest Kong that I tested and the most overstable one. It fell somewhere in the middle. But overall, if you like the Destroyer, definitely worth checking out one of these Ricky Raptor Destroyers. They fly great, they feel great, and I had a great time testing them. That is my review on the Star Destroyer. Thanks for watching. I'll check you all very soon. Cheers.